It was 2 o'clock in the morning, and I was completely and utterly exhausted, but I couldn't go to sleep. I was too busy staring into the eyes of the most beautiful 9-pound baby boy that the world had ever seen. I had just spent 21 hours in labor, and as I laid there holding that little boy, tears streamed down my face as I laid in that hospital bed alone. I couldn't believe it. This was not how my life was supposed to go. Only a few months earlier, I had walked across the stage as high school valedictorian. I had scholarships to go to colleges all over the country, and yet here I was, a mom, a single mom. How was I going to do this alone for the next 2 decades? Hi, I'm Jennifer Maggio. I'm the CEO and founder of The Life of a Single Mom. And you may think that my single parenting journey began in that hospital room oh so long ago. But actually, my single parenting journey began long before I even knew what a single parent was. You see, my mother was killed when I was only 17 months old, making my dad a single parent overnight. As you can imagine, he was devastated by the loss of his 32-year-old wife so unexpectedly, and he used alcohol and women to self-medicate, to attempt to mask the pain of parenting alone. Those days were dark days as I journeyed through and watched my dad struggle. Those days also were days where I began being abused and walked through 10 years of sexual assault, and some of the things of which I endured, some of you probably couldn't even handle hearing. Those days were hard. Is it any wonder that I too became a single parent at only 17? And the single parenting journey, well, that was one for the books. There were the days of endless tears and parenting alone and making decisions by yourself. There were the days of financial woes that were seemingly insurmountable. There was the loneliness. There was the isolation of feeling like no one else could possibly understand how hard and heavy your weight was. And the darkest day? Well, that was the day that I laid on the floor of a government-issued apartment and I contemplated taking my own life. It was the day that I felt like I could not go on another second, that I could not do this. And the only reason that I didn't take my life that day is because I knew what it was like to be raised without a mom, and I didn't want my children to endure that. And so as I laid on that floor that day, I thought, this isn't how my life is supposed to be. This isn't how it was supposed to happen. This isn't how it was supposed to end up. But the great news about my story, it doesn't end there. The next years of my life were a decision for me to somehow, some way, against all odds, learn how to thrive, not just survive, not just barely make it as a single mom, but somehow learn to thrive and do this thing called parenting well. Suffice it to say, the journey was a long and hard one, and there were lots of twists and turns along the path. But I did somehow make it. 2 small children are now adult children who are college graduates and thriving in their life, and I even snagged a husband along the way. But I never forgot that moment on the bathroom floor. And I never forgot what it was like to parent alone when you felt like you couldn't go on. And I wondered about the 22 million single moms in this country. And I wondered about how they would find their way. And then I began to think about the people along the path who helped me. And I was reminded of Miss Allie. Miss Allie was a Sunday school teacher in a local church that I just happened to stumble into because I hadn't been to church in a long time. And I found out that Miss Allie was a widow, and she had children that she was parenting alone. And she seemed to be doing a pretty good job of it. Miss Allie had warm eyes and a bright smile. And for some reason, I felt like she saw me, that she truly saw me. And through her kindness, I continued to come back to her class week after week. It was only a few months later that we celebrated Mother's Day at our church, and the pastor, in all of his loving kindness, asked all of the mothers to stand. And so I hesitantly stood, and then he took it a step further and he said, "Moms, come on down and stand on the stage," as people applauded while we walked to the front. And we stood there on the stage, and then he introduced a big basket, and that basket had corsages in it. And he said, "Husbands, come on down and pin a corsage on your wives to honor them on Mother's Day." Well, as I stood there quite awkwardly, knowing that no husband would be coming to pin a corsage on me, I wondered what I should do. I wondered if I should discreetly sit back down where people wouldn't notice me, or should I stand there and hope that no one noticed that I didn't have a corsage, or should I go and get my own corsage and pin it to myself? I stood there for what seemed like an eternity. And then Miss Allie noticed me again. And she walked to that basket, she pulled a corsage out, and she walked across that stage and she pinned one on me. Now, for some of you, you may not think that that's that big of a deal, but I can tell you that that small act of kindness changed my life. It made me know that I had a place there too. It made me know that someone saw me and saw my needs. And then there was the time when I bumped into her in the grocery store. After I had worked 12 hours that day, and I had a little infant and I had a toddler hanging on my hip, and I was attempting to grocery shop so that I could feed the kiddos for that night. And I was exhausted, and kids were doing what they do, needing their mom, and I was in near tears. And I was just shy of leaving that grocery cart full of groceries and just leaving because I was too tired to do it that night. And Miss Allie saw me, and she walked over to me and she made small talk with me. And then she placed her hand on my hand on that buggy, and she gave me a hug. And it was the word of encouragement and the gesture that I needed to make it just one more day. My story ends with being very successful in corporate America. My story ends with my children being very successful and ultimately having my white picket fence and my happily ever after. But I wondered who the Miss Allie was going to be for all of the other single moms that were out there when they were on that bathroom floor, whatever that bathroom floor looked like for them. And that's why I started The Life of a Single Mom almost 10 years ago. It was out of this mission and vision that no single mom, regardless of their story, should walk alone. That single mom support groups could change lives. Don't discount the gathering. Don't discount the power of women coming together and locking arms and fellowshipping and mentoring one another. Don't discount the power that rises whenever women begin to see their true value. So if you're a single mom out there and you're listening to me, I want to encourage you today that you have value. You have intrinsic value that was granted to you by your Creator, and you are seen, you are valued, and you are loved. And that you serve a God that is in the mountain moving, way making business. And that's what we do here at The Life of a Single Mom. You know, what started in my living room with 3 single moms a long time ago has now birthed into an international ministry that has served over 406,000 women today. We are so excited about what has happened over the last 10 years. We are excited about Single Mom University and how that has been a seed that has been planted in hundreds of women's lives, and the national conferences we've hosted. We're so excited about all that has happened in the lives of moms. I encourage each one of you to join us in the fight of seeing no single mom walk alone. When we get involved, we see women's lives change. We see women who had no hope begin to have hope. We see women who had no path begin to walk out the path that has been created for them. And we're so thankful for the opportunities of churches, more than 1,500 of you that have said yes to planting single mom support groups. But we know that there are many other churches out there that don't have a single mom support group yet. So if you're listening out there today, we want to encourage you to start a single mom's ministry in your church. You see, when you impact a single mom, you impact her children. And when you impact children, you impact a nation. So join us today.